What was the movie?
Yeah. Mamma Mia. Now I call Mamma Mia too, but it was Mamma Mia, Here We Are Again. Here we go again. See, I got to refer to the scribe.
You're on.
No, don't do it.
You're on.
I'm on. Thank you. But anyway, I enjoyed the music. I really did. But the story, and one point in the story, the lady got up front to sing, and she was not singing that well. And suddenly, one of the members of the band said, "Let your soul sing your best song." And I went, oh my God, that's it. Because we all have a soul that is perfect and whole, just as it is. We are created in the image and after likeness, and we have a DNA that we have confused over the years, but still is the original pattern of perfection that's with us. And this individual was saying, go back there and sing your soul, the sweetest song. And to me, it was wonderful. And I had spoke last week. We got involved in the metaphysical interpretation earlier, and I went back to some beginnings that I did back in school, and the idea of the metaphysical interpretations and the metaphors. One thing a lot of people don't understand is the Bible is a series of stories about the development of our spiritual soul. So it starts off in the beginning. And there's a very, very interesting phrases in the beginning, so guess where I'm going? Genesis 1:1, okay? And I'm reading from the Lamsa Bible. Again, the Lamsa Bible was in the original language that Jesus spoke. One of the problems is a lot of people say he spoke Greek. That was not the language at the time. The language was the original Aramaic, and the Aramaic was very full of metaphors and similes. And the example I always use is, can you imagine 2,000 years from now, somebody reading that I was hot under the collar and trying to understand what that meant? Or I'm in a pickle, or I'm behind the 8 ball. All these euphemisms, or they call them idioms, that are used in the Bible, and stories that are meta stories. They're not actual stories, they're patterns of human behavior. And a lot of us don't know that they had to hide the scriptural ideas because there was a lot of controversy if you really spoke out. As a matter of fact, if you really figured out, Jesus was crucified because he blasphemed by saying, I am God. And I'm sitting here going to tell you today that you're an expression of God, and in essence, you are God. So can you imagine what would happen 2,000 years ago? So they had to hide all those ideas behind metaphors. Now, I'm going to go into Genesis 1:1, glasses, okay? And now we need to, I'm going to repeat it 2 or 3 times. God created the heavens and the earth in the very beginning. So it says God created the heaven and the earth in the very beginning. Now, one of the big things to do is go to the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, which was put together by Charles Fillmore, and look at what are the heavens and the earth. So it says here in metaphysical interpretation of heaven is the kingdom of heaven, or of the heavens, is a state of consciousness in which the soul and the body are in harmony with divine mind. So the heaven metaphorically means that state of perfection that God is. See, God is perfect in all conditions, and God is omnipresent, God is omnipotent, God is omniscient. So there is that state of being where we are one with God, and God is perfect. Okay? Now, that is called heaven, or the state of heaven. Okay, now, we go on with earth. Okay, and it says, this is very interesting. Teachers of metaphysics find that the most difficult work is getting students to recognize that heaven is a condition of the mind. Because we have been trained that heaven is out there somewhere. Heaven is that perfect place we're working toward. But this is saying heaven's already within you, and you are already in heaven. Isn't that a heck of a thing to realize? So you are perfect and whole just as you are. Everything about you is okay. And you can go home and tell your mom and dad that everything worked out. Okay? Because that's the truth. Now, what happened? Somewhere in between, the original program got corrupted. So let's go on and look at the second verse of Genesis. Are you ready? So heaven is that state of perfection. Earth is defined in here as the form that occurs from creation. So it is actually the physical world is the earth. Makes sense? In other words, heaven and earth. And those are the two states of being. Perfection of God and the world that has been created around us. So the next it says, and I'm going to repeat this again. Okay? God created the heavens and the earth in the very beginning. Second verse. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. What happened to the earth in the second verse? Something happened, yes? Or it wasn't formed yet. Okay? Now, it says further on, and God was created in the image and after the likeness of God, which meant each of us has been created in the image and after the likeness of God on a spiritual level. Okay? So, I way back when, some of the work I was doing, I had access to a rabbi who was really the Torah. Those of you who understand the Torah, the first 5 chapters of the Old Testament. And in the translations, God created the earth is past tense. And the individual said it might really mean present tense. And so God is creating the earth. Might be a better translation. So who is part of the creation of this earth around us right now?
We are.
You and we are the emissaries of God, the expressions of God. And if you really stop and think about it, everything in this cotton-picking room was created through man's mind. Look at the chair. And that chair was in somebody's mind. An engineer got it all figured out. Then a manufacturer had to put it together. It had to be assembled. It had to be put on a truck, and it had to be brought to us. So who did that? Man. But what happened in the interim was somebody had a divine idea that they brought into form. So the whole world around us has been created by usins for the last 3,000, 4,000, 10,000, 20,000 years. We don't know time. The Bible historically is what, 5, 6, 7,000 years old, and we know it goes back much earlier than that. So the story of man is an ambiguity, if we can use that terminology, but in this creation, which is a metaphysical metaphor, it's a story that tells about an idea. And the idea is fascinating. It just jumped out at me that the first verse says God created the heaven and the earth. The second verse says, and the earth was without form and void. So who created the earth? Okay? And what are we doing every day of our lives? You know, you get in your car and you go somewhere, you're creating. Okay, just being here this morning, did we create this together? Yes. Okay? Stop and think about what you have created. And it took me back, part of my original reading, I got involved in Unity through Catherine Ponder's work, but one of the real first books I read was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I'm sure some of you have read that. One of the famous quotes in there is, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Do you hear creation? See, conception is the beginning of something that never existed before, with a divine spark of energy, if you will. Okay? So the divine spark of energy occurs, and there's a new idea. Now, the new idea in our world takes 9 months gestation period. So how long does it take an idea to come into fruition from the heavenly area into the earth area, which is form? And sometimes ideas, it's like that church down the road is an idea. Everybody there? Now, it's an idea that's being incorporated on faith. So the idea has been conceived, the property is there. We got beautiful drawings, okay? And we've got an idea, and in the meantime, whatever the mind of human can conceive. And the second part is what? And believe. So the way the whole thing works is I think it, I'm given those thoughts by divine intervention, and then they come into fruition through my physical energy. my spiritual energy. So if you stop and think about this, everything in the world, in our earth, is at a high rate of vibration. Everything's energy, okay? That's why I got a kick out of it, because see, what we are here to do is to raise our energies to a higher level, whether you know it or not. And we do that through metaphors, we do that through songs, we do that through communication, we do that through each other. And in that process, we are creating and bringing in from the heavenly realms into the physical realms or earth those things. Now, what happens? How come we have political dissension? How come we have war over in Asia? Because we have allowed the ego mind to overcome the divine mind. Okay, now, what is a higher authority? Obviously, divine mind. But the ego mind has kind of corrupted that issue. So if you really take a look at it, it says, and the earth was without form and void, okay? And then light came in, third day. Everybody there? And we just talked about you are the light of the world. So that light is the understanding of who I am and who you are. You see it? So whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe is the light dawning within us of who we really are. And the thing fascinating, I love it when I go back in and I find stuff. And the fact that it said one of the most difficult things that religious or spiritual teachers had is to convince people who they really are. We talk about it quite a bit, don't we? Because, you know, we can talk about prosperity, and we've done prosperity workshops. You can talk about relationships, you can talk about health, you can talk about divine healing, and it all goes back to belief in who you really are. Even our prayer thing is connecting with that light of who we are as a combination of that energy, spiritual energy that will bring us to that higher level of awareness. It's fascinating, it really is. So, ever since I heard the movie on Friday, I've been thinking about that. And it's let your soul sing its sweetest song. Now, anybody ever notice when something's really exciting, the negative thoughts come in? So I swear there's an energy out there. Now, trying to remember who started spiritual center awareness. Anyway, he said there's an energy for good in the universe is one of his first statements. So there is an energy for good, and that's all there is. And if there is anything else that's other than perfection, our thinking, our corrupted thinking has created it at some level. So that's the second step that's difficult to overcome, is that when I see something, I'm responsible for myself seeing it. Okay? It's kind of like fascinating. I don't like that. That's not fair to me. Because, you know, it's taking responsibility for who I am and what I am. And the energy of God is love. Now, it's not the slurpy, romantic love. Is that the correct term? Not necessarily. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. The love that we know is really, it's a total unconditional love. And it's so far beyond, it's in a frequency level that it's hard for us to understand it until we experience it. Barbara wants to talk.
Barbara wants to talk. I've said this before, but I just wanted to say that we talk about light and love a lot
Yes.
here. And the acronym LIGHT does stand for love is God's healing touch.
Yes, great.
So,
Thank you.
yes, well,
And see, and you guys were singing, I am the light of the world. Okay? Now, the issue is keeping that thought in our minds 24/7. Okay? So, you know, there's so much more, because you start talking about water, and water's that subconscious mind thing, cleansing. So you bring the light in, and the water changes, and the firmament comes up, which is the example of bringing God's extension into our lives. There's all these metaphors that are in there. And I'm not going to get into all that today. Maybe start some more next week. But just understand, the Bible is full of metaphysical interpretations that apply to us in our journey as a spiritual entity. And the big thing is heaven and earth. And we're right back to A Course in Miracles saying life is either love or fear. So there's always two states of being, the divine state of being or the world state of being. And the world state of being is run by the ego. The divine state of being is run by the Christ within us. So, and we're constantly making a choice between those two states of being. All right. I feel like I'm preaching. I better slow down. It's the world around us is mirroring back to us all the time. Okay? Where's my notes? I should look at them. I've been hearing conversation. See, God always works on what the positive part of things, okay? When fear comes in, fear has words like, we should have done this, that might hurt, what will be the outcome of that? Fear thoughts are things like, oh, well, what if it doesn't work out? Or what if we don't have the money to build the church? What happens if? It's always what if, what if? And I believe Jesus says, let's learn to talk what if up rather than what if down. So what would happen if we built a bigger church than we really planned on doing? What would happen if it was a better construction than we had planned on? Okay, all these what ifs, life is full of what ifs, and that point of demarcation between which part where we go is the end of what if. And unfortunately, the world has trained us to what if. When I was doing management training all over the world, one of the issues is every business plan needs an escape plan. If it doesn't work, you got to have it in writing what you're going to do to get out. Help MBAs, okay? So what happens if? Now, what happens if the cotton picking thing works well? What are we going to do? What would happen if we had 50 people show up here next week? Okay, all those are what ifs. And so we have a tendency to plan what if down rather than what if up. And right here it's saying the earth was without form and void, and it's up to us to bring in our part of the creation of this world. Now, things are changing rapidly. You look at history, what has happened? I hate to admit it, but I remember TV when it was this funny little thing about that big, and it was black and white.
3 channels.
What?
3 stations. And they
Yeah, 3 stations.
Everything went blank at 10.
And there was an older man next to our older, he was in his 80s or 90s, and he kept saying, there's witches in that box. So help me, that's what he did, and it was funny. And it was like, and you know, in the neighborhood, there was 1 or 2 families that had TV, and they were the ones with money. Okay? I walked into Sam's, and they're all over the place. And everybody's walking out with big screens, man. Okay, I was excited when we bought a 55-inch screen, 5 years ago? And today you get it for $500 and roll them out. So things are constantly in change for the better. Okay, now it's up to you to decide if it's better or not. But even the cars we drive, you know, I can remember, you know, is the battery going to wear out? How long is this car going to last? All those concerns. Right now, you drive a car for how long? Some of you have been driving cars for 5, 10 years, yes. And they're still doing very well. I've got an old truck out there from 2005. It's better than it was when I first got it. Paint's a little bit off, but mechanically it's working. So we are living in a world that is a culmination of all the divine thoughts keep coming and keep getting better and better and better. And the problem is we have to make the choice to allow them through. In other words, we can cut them off with fear or doubt or what ifs or I should have done this or could have done this or what would happen if. And see, there's all this verbiage that cuts God off. And whether you want to call it God or not, we've had that discussion this week. Some of us, the word God, we were trained in childhood that God was going to get you if you didn't do it right. And you were a sinner and going to hell, so my God, I don't want to go there. So I'm going to deny that whole thing. So a lot of us have these issues about words. So change them. Madeline changed me. I like to use the word child of God a lot. And I like to talk about the Christ within you. And some people can't relate to that. She's decided that we all have a power within us. Do you hear the words? So, and when she says namaste, excuse me, She is saying, I salute the power within you, which is the power within me. So don't get hung up on words. Just use words that salute you. And the one word I really believe in is the word love. Because it says here, we are one. And if you can get this idea of connection, you know, we had to look at each other earlier. And really, the idea behind it is whoever you look at that's in human form and even animal form, I believe, you're looking at God in expression. And how did you treat God this week? Did you holler at him when he was on TV? Did you holler at her because she said something you didn't like? Your next door neighbor did what? See, we're all judging God all the time. And God is what? Perfect love all the time. And one of the things that I've been working on quite openly is overlooking the issues in somebody in my family. Anybody familiar with that one? And learning to look at love rather than upset, or rather than trying to fix them. I ran into the folks that are doing practical metaphysics are doing very well back there. And I keep going back to this, but I keep running into good stuff. By the way, read books. You find all kinds of neat things. So it says, you ready? And this was appropriate for me. He says, the need is not to change people or events. So we're not here to change anybody, but what do we want to do? We want to change people the way I think. They should think this way, okay? Or they don't love me. Or, you know, we make up stories. Then it goes on and says, not to set them right or to straighten them out. Let me do it again. The need is not to change people, not to set them right or to straighten them out, but to see them rightly and straighten out our own projected consciousness. Isn't that an interesting comment? Because when I look out, I see me, and I see God, and we are all in that same boat. And then it goes on and says, the only wrong involved as far as I'm concerned is that I'm seeing out of a negative consciousness. So if I'm upset with whomever, they can be on the TV, the next door neighbor, my spouse, whatever it is, I am seeing them less than perfect as a child of God. I'm actually projecting that negative energy onto them and creating more of a problem for them and me. But yet if I projected love to them, I might create them with the ability to really look at the way it is, the way I think. And I'm being funny with that. But do you see, if we're sending anger and upset at somebody, we're actually creating what we don't want. Then it goes on and says, I have to straighten that out, and that's all I can ever do, is correct myself in what I see. Very, very interesting. So I'm going back, and God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void. So science in quantum physics knows that what I think about, I create. So you go into the string theory and all that other quantum physics stuff. It's clear that we are created beings creating our world around us. And we've used that morphogenic energy field idea, that I have a field of beliefs around me that I carry with me all the time. And as I walk, you know, I could be here, I could be in, where's Larry going? You're going to North Carolina? I could be in New York, I could be in California. And all that energy that I am is with me, so I experience everything that I experience here or there. Because I am creating my world around me. And all the positives and negatives that I carry with me. So, the idea behind this is that whatever a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And I want to genderize that by saying whatever a human thinks, therefore that's who I am. It's a very, very interesting concept. And I keep going back here. And Bruce, thank you for I am the light of the world. Because it dovetails exactly with what we're talking about. And it's our choice to turn the light on. So when I'm looking at TV and I don't like what I'm seeing, I need to turn my light on. Okay? And I'm open about that. Maybe I should just turn the TV off. Anybody agree with that?
Yes.
Madeline definitely agrees with that.
Oh, we have remote control.
Yeah. I can learn to fast forward, right? Couple more things, just some simple things. The byword for unity is practical Christianity. What that means is it's the Christian principles applied to life that produce the outcomes I want. So it's practical in its application. In other words, I can take a set of tools, apply them, and life changes. And the biggest application is first the understanding that I am a divine being. I am creating my own heaven, and I'm in the process of creating my world. And as I spend time in meditation, as I spend time with wonderful folks, look around again, look at those smiling faces, okay? And as I read the word, whatever the word is, and as I affirm and do the work. You gotta do the work every day. I hate to disappoint you. I was talking with B about that earlier today. We gotta do the work. You gotta do the work every day, because the world out there is doing the work on us in the wrong way. So, having said that, I do want to make a statement that, and there's times that I don't realize it, but we really are talking about a mystical path. It's a mystical path because it's unseen. God is incorporeal. There's no body, there's nothing to see. And it's difficult unless we can look at something and touch it, feel it, smell it, all the physical senses. But we are talking about an energy and a vibration much higher than us in the physical world. And that energy is there to support us, to love us, to appreciate us, and to bring what we want into the world as long as we control what we want. So thank you for my opportunity to share that with you. Part of the reason I do this is I apply it to my own head. So I love you dearly, and I know that we are on the right path toward outcomes that are only perfect and whole, just as they are right now today. Amen.